is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it.
Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And 0 for 4 with trying to get a guest on, but it's all good. I told you guys I would record a preview for this upcoming Philadelphia Union versus Atlanta United game, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. And so, like I told you guys last episode, I would just do this episode, and then you guys want to hear from me. And if anybody wanted to host a podcast, be a guest, then they could go ahead and do it. So, I didn't realize that the Philadelphia Union versus Atlanta United game was at 3:30 on Saturday. I thought it was like 7:30 on Saturday. So, because it's at 3:30, I feel like I have enough time to come home, record, around the same time I'm recording this podcast right now on Thursday night, and then have that podcast episode, the review episode between Philadelphia Union and Atlanta United. I feel like I have enough time to have that uploaded for Sunday morning for you guys. So, I should be able to actually record the review episode Saturday night, have it uploaded on Sunday morning so you guys can listen to. And then, if anybody wants to come on and be a guest host for the New York Red Bulls game, feel free to come on and be a guest host for the New York Red Bulls game. But like I said, we're going to talk Atlanta United, Philadelphia Union. But before we talk about the Atlanta United Philadelphia Union game this Saturday, Atlanta United, they took on DC United over the weekend, and they beat DC United by a score of 3-2. And goals came from Ezequiel Barco, from Joseph Martinez, and from George Bello. And honestly, the 3-2 scoreline, it's so misleading. If you went back and watched any highlights from this game, if you watch a little bit of this game, it doesn't matter what you watch. You would see, looking at the stats, that, okay, look, it looks like Atlanta United dominated. At one point, it should have been 4-1 to Atlanta United. Joseph Martinez had a 1-on-1 situation against Bill Hamid. Bill Hamid came out with a huge save and kept it at 3-1. And then DC United, they got a great goal by Edison Flores. There was a lot of great goals in this game. One coming from Barco on that free kick, an outstanding free kick from Ezequiel. You had a great goal from Felipe Martins from DC United. Edison Flores scored a great goal near the end of the game. But, yeah, like I said, 3-2, just totally misleading for this game. Atlanta United absolutely dominated. Probably should have been 4-1. Bill Hamid played out of his mind in this game. Probably could have been 5-6-1, honestly, with all the chances that Atlanta United had in the first half, and then they continued in the second half of the game. But nonetheless, DC United don't get any points, and you know that helps us, even though right now Atlanta United are ahead of us in the table. But as we all know, we play Atlanta United this Saturday, so it doesn't matter that Atlanta United's ahead of us. I've said in the past that DC United's a team that I'm a little bit afraid of because of the form that they've been playing under Anand Lasada. That they've played a lot of great soccer this season. They have all the same players they had last season under Ben Olsen, but it's just a completely different team this year, DC United. And they went down to Atlanta United and just weren't able to get a point. And that's because Atlanta United's been playing so well as of late. I'll get into the stats. I believe they're in the last 8 games, they've won 7 out of 8 games. The only loss came against Nashville, which Nashville's a great opponent, and nobody goes into Nissan Stadium and gets a victory. And yeah, Nashville couldn't, and that was head coach Gonzalo Pineda's first game in charge of Atlanta United, and they lose 2-0 to Atlanta. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that yet. Just DC United. Okay, maybe this brings them down to earth because they couldn't get a point down on Atlanta, and Yeah, just Atlanta, like I said, 7 out of 8 games they've had a win. So they've been playing really, really well. And it's not like when we went down in June where we were able to get a point, 2-2. I mean, Atlanta United were struggling. They couldn't find any form in the first half of the season. And you felt good about our chances going down in Atlanta because of that. We saw what we did to Atlanta in the CONCACAF Champions League down in Atlanta, the 3-1 victory. And then they come to Subaru Park and tie us 1-1, but it didn't matter. And yeah, just everything that happened in the first half of the season for Atlanta United, I feel like it just all gets thrown out of the window because of what Atlanta United's been able to do in the second half. I mean, the one player that had an unbelievable second half, and I said Nashville earlier. I said Nashville. The game was played in Nissan Stadium. It was actually played in Atlanta, and Nashville surprisingly got a victory on the road, 2-0. So, yeah, the Atlanta United fans haven't had an away game with Gonzalo Pineda yet. This is going to be the first away game at Subaru Park, but yeah, I don't want to skip ahead. I was looking, it was like, yeah, it doesn't sound right that Atlanta United played in Nissan Stadium for Gonzalo Pineda's first game. Yeah, it was not, but the one player for Atlanta United who's had a great second half of the season is Ezequiel Barco. And this is a guy who, look, let's face it, they brought him in 2018 for $15 million. This is a guy that they had a huge belief in, who thought they had a player that they could sell him for $30+ million. They thought that he had a huge future ahead of him. They thought the tandem of Miguel Almiron, Joseph Martinez, and Barco was going to be something special. And then after the MLS Cup victory for Atlanta in 2018, they sold Miguel Almiron and brought in Pity Martinez. And we all know how Pity Martinez turned out for Atlanta United. And Barco just still couldn't find any form. But the second half of the season, I mean, this is the season that is what Atlanta United fans were hoping for Barco. This is the player that they thought they were buying because he has 6 goals in 9 games, and he has a goal in 3 straight games for Atlanta United. And like I said, I mean, you pay $15 million for this guy in 2018. No MLS team's paying that much money other than your LAFCs, LA Galaxies, Atlanta United. I know Cincinnati paid, $9-10 million for Brenner, the Brazilian striker, and yeah, he hasn't hit the world on fire. And yeah, I mean, leaving Brazil's tough for those young players. Leaving South America is tough for these young players. And Barco came from Argentina, and it probably took him some time to adjust to MLS, being away from home, and it took him three and a half years to finally hit the ground running for Atlanta United. But this guy's been unbelievable. 6 goals, 9 games. Just wow. And 2019, 2020, they were, like I said, just underwhelming seasons for Barco at Atlanta United. There's a guy who, like I said, they thought they had something special with him, Miguel Almiron and Joseph Martinez. Took nothing. And there was a lot of speculation in the offseason where Atlanta United tried to move him. And they said, okay, look, we're going to hang on to you because if we try to sell you, we're going to take a loss. And I think I remember reading rumors that Sevilla and La Liga were interested in Barco. I'm not sure if it was a loan or if they offered a transfer fee, but it definitely wasn't the whole $15 million if they offered a transfer fee. But if you go ahead and look at Ezequiel Barco's numbers, he's third in carries in the final third with 72. Now, remember, carries are the number of times the player controls the ball with his feet. He is 8th in MLS in progressive carries with 150. That is, carries that the ball moves towards the goal. And he's 17th in all of MLS with completed dribbles with 78% completed dribble rate, which he is 33 out of 42 dribbles. And looking at the numbers, Barco is definitely a guy that Atlanta United love getting involved in the final third. That's always been the case with Barco. Is that Atlanta United tried getting him involved in the final third in the last 2 seasons, but now this second half of the MLS season is when we're really starting to see Barco put it together and link up well with his teammates. I know we did a interview a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week, I know it was recently where he said, yeah, he's finally settling into Atlanta United. He can play with happiness. And there was rumors last season, 2 seasons ago, that he was messing with a teammate's girlfriend at the time, and there was all this drama for just off the field stuff. And yeah, maybe that is part of the reason why the first 2 seasons for Atlanta United, Barco wasn't playing well. But now he says he's playing happy, and I mean it shows. 6 goals, 9 games. I know I've said that like 6 or 7 times now, but that's really impressive for a player that looked like Atlanta United just overpaid for, a guy that wasn't going to cut it for Atlanta United, where fans had given up on him. And Joseph Martinez last season with the torn ACL, this is a guy that Atlanta United fans were really, really depending on. And yeah, he wasn't able to carry the torch last season. At the start of this season, he started hot and then he cooled off. And it's like, yeah, this is the same old Barco. But yeah, just the second half of the season just been unbelievable for Barco. And he's done a really good job to put it together. And we'll see if he can keep it up for Orlando United as they close out the rest of the season. But I think for me, the player that has been the most impressive for Atlanta United is Marcelino Moreno. There's a guy that Atlanta United bought in September of last season, and you saw a glimpse of what he could be for Atlanta United, but he didn't have enough games to gel with the team yet. And how many times have we said on this podcast, how many times have you guys seen with your own eyes where when MLS teams bring a player in halfway through the MLS season, they don't have time to adjust to the team? Because look, MLS is halfway through the season. These players that they're buying from South America, they're buying from European teams. These guys are now in their off season. They're getting their breaks and everything, but they're asked to come in and just hit the ground running. And that's a lot of games on players that, were thinking they were going to get a break in the summertime, but nope, here they go. And all these other players are in form. They're fit. And here's Moreno, who's thinking, okay, well, I didn't have much time to recover and everything. Now I got to get caught up to speed. And he didn't really gel with the team, but there's a guy who's a designated player. There's a guy who they had a lot of hopes for. And look, this season, you can definitely make a strong case that he's been the best player, that this is the guy that they knew that they were getting all along, because he's tied for second on the team with 7 goals, tied for second on the team with 5 assists, second on the team with key passes with 56, and that is good for 8th overall in MLS. He is second on the team with 97 passes in the final third. He leads the team in passes in the penalty area with 39. And he's also second on the team in pressures with 330. But he's most active in the pressures in the attacking third and the middle thirds of the pitch. Doesn't really do a lot defensively with pressures, but he'll definitely come back and play defense for Atlanta United. That's for sure. Just he might not press the ball as much as he is in the attacking and middle third. And I would say he's what Leon Flock is to us defensively, but just the thing that jumps off to me is what he does offensively for Atlanta United. The engine on this guy is unbelievable. To watch him go in transition from defense to offense, yeah, it's really something special for Atlanta United fans that they have there for the midfield. And look, you pair him up with Santiago Sosa, who I know Jim Curtin said in the past that he's the absolute best player for Atlanta United. Didn't even say Joseph Martinez. And yeah, Joseph Martinez was coming back from the knee injury, but seeing Sosa be that playmaker for Atlanta United earlier on in the season when they had such a dark time, and you saw other beat reporters for MLS say, yeah, finally Sosa's getting the recognition that he deserves for a team that's not creating anything offensively, that's not really doing much defensively. Look, here's a bright spot for their team, and that's what he's been this season for Atlanta United for sure. But I think Moreno has been the best player. And yeah, I gave you guys stats, but to see a guy that's not a forward be second on your team with 7 goals, to be tied on the team with assists in second place, he has 5 assists. I mean, it's crazy what this guy does defensively. He works his tails off defensively. and to transition from defense to offense and to provide so much for Atlanta United, who just lacked that offensive ability this season, and you didn't know what you were getting with Joseph Martinez coming back from that ACL injury. Yeah, Moreno has really, really stepped up. And I guess to look at it even more, even further, is Gonzalo Pineda, the head coach for Atlanta United, who, like I said, his first match in charge for Atlanta United was against Nashville. He's only coached in 4 matches for Atlanta United, which Atlanta United, the 3-1 in the games that he's taken over. And in those 4 games, they've outscored opponents 10-4. And he's stuck with the 3 in the back formation that United have been playing with this season. And yeah, at times it looks like 5 in the back because the wingbacks track up and forth from defense to offense with Brooks Lennon and George Bello. So, I mean, you can say 3 in the back, 5 in the back. It doesn't really matter. They're playing with 3 center backs, that's for sure, in the 4 games that Pineda has managed. And that's what they've been doing throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, you look, 10 goals, 4 conceded. The 2 goals that they conceded were against Nashville, and then the 2 goals that they conceded against DC United. Yeah, there's nothing they could do about that. The defenders weren't at fault for either one of those goals. They were just really well-struck goals for DC United. But look, they played Orlando City. 3 goals against Orlando City. And they've always had Orlando City's number. Joseph Martinez loves scoring against Orlando City. FC Cincinnati, they beat 4-0, and Cincinnati is Cincinnati. So it's like, how much can you buy into what they did against Cincinnati? But look, you don't pick the teams that you play against. You don't pick when you play against them. You just play what your schedule says, and they took care of business against Cincinnati. They took care of business against DC United. They took care of business against Orlando City, and Nashville outplayed them on the road. I said it last episode. I told you guys the 6 teams ahead of the Union in the playoffs, what their records are at home compared to on the road. And I think that was Nashville's 2nd win on the road of all season. And so to go down to Atlanta United, who, like I said, prior to that, they had not lost a game in the month of August at home. And Nashville go in there and get 2 goals against Atlanta United. So, yeah, Atlanta United really coming in here in fine form, and then under Pineda. And they've been playing tremendous soccer down there. And look, the one thing that I look at for Pineda is they've not really been a high pressing team, Atlanta United. When teams try to press against them, Atlanta United do a good job of passing out of that. But they are pressing a little bit more now that Pineda is there. They're not pressing as much as the Union, as much as the Red Bulls, as much as LAFC. They're definitely not pressing that much. That's not how Atlanta United are built. They're built to just pass, play tiki-taka soccer with Sosa, with Moreno. And then you add in what, like I said, what Barco is doing. Yeah, I mean, you can see since Pineda has taken over, when they win that ball back in the midfield, they're looking for Barco. They're looking to transition right through him, to have him go straight into the attack, to take players on one-on-one. But I think not just the pressing. The biggest difference, in my opinion, since Pineda has taken over is they're actually finishing the chances that they're creating. That's something that they weren't doing earlier on in the season, and maybe part of that has to do with Joseph Martinez. The more and more that he's playing since he's come off of that ACL surgery, maybe he's feeling more and more like himself. I think we can all agree that Joseph Martinez isn't what he was in 2019, but Joseph Martinez leads his team in goals right now, and we've seen him hurt the Union in the past, and I will play an update on what's been going on with Joseph Martinez in training the last couple of days for you guys here in a second. But yeah, it's just crazy to see this team couldn't score at all. They had the players. They had the 2 really good midfielder players to create chances for them, but they couldn't finish any of the chances. And then they go on in the summertime and add a player like Luis Araujo. And adding a player like Luis really helps Atlanta United's width, allowing space for players like Barco, like Martinez, like Moreno to run into. So, look, they've got finally a winger opposite of Barco to help on the right side of the field, open up that space. And because of that, Atlanta United has been opening up a tremendous amount of space in the middle of the field. Then you got a player, obviously, like Jürgen Damm, who cannot finish to save his life, but he's super duper pacey. And so, look, when you have Luis out there, when you have Barco out there going at you, tiring your legs, and these guys might be getting tired, you have a player like Jürgen Damm to come off the bench who now is going to go out those tired legs even more. So this United team is definitely not what it was in the first half of the season. And you can tell just all these players on this team are playing with a lot of confidence. And like I said, since August 7th, Atlanta United, they've won 7 out of the last 8 games, with the only loss coming against Nashville. But going on to the Philadelphia Union versus Atlanta United game, like I said, Gonzalo Pineda met with the media on Thursday, and he was asked about, okay, well, why has Josef Martinez been missing the last couple of days in practice? And this is what Gonzalo had to say.
Yeah, so we did obviously a test with him. All the doctors checked it. Nothing major came out of that. So he's going to be on the sides, like training on his own a little bit, and it's a day-by-day case. So we will see what's his response from today to tomorrow, and we will see. So I cannot say Joseph won't play the next game because we don't know, but obviously it's a day-by-day situation that we need to assess every morning. I would say that it's not just that one is on our side, but I would say that his knee has a bit of an overload. After all the struggles that he had, that probably he shared a little bit the other day with you guys, but he struggled big time with that knee. He went through a lot of things, so all that international traveling, all those miles flying, putting his leg in the same position for multiple hours probably is not the best thing for him. So we need to kind of evaluate him and to see what is the best for him and for his knee. I think that he's a warrior again. I said that after the game. He wants to play every game. But we as coaches, we need to be mindful of that and just modify at times and adjust for the own benefit of Joseph. So that's the thing that concerns me a little bit more, is those travels, is those moments where we are overloading his knee, and that's what I have on the back of my mind. This one doesn't worry me, to be honest. I think he's going to be fine, but the long term, or kind of in the short term here, what are we doing with him in this short period of time?
Yeah, so you heard from Pineda say that, yeah, it's just an overload, overworking on his knee. Now, I mean, that's to be expected, right? I mean, a major ACL surgery doesn't help that Atlanta United play their home games on turf, which is going to put more pressure on your knees. But it sounded like Pineda thought, nah, it's not really the games. It's the traveling that he's doing with Venezuela, the long plane rides where you're just sitting in a plane so stiff. The plane rides going from Atlanta to X city. Now, I guess it's a lot different when they're flying from Atlanta to Orlando to Nashville, someplace down south where it's not that long of a flight. But the flight from Atlanta to Philadelphia, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to put a little bit pressure on Josef Martinez's knees. And he was asked a little bit later in the interview, he was asked about, well, how does the charter flight affect Josef Martinez? And he said, actually, yeah, the charter flights actually help his knees a lot. So people are like, is Josef Martinez really going to play? What would you do? I know they were asking journalists, the Atlanta United fans were asking journalists what they would do. They were like, yeah, we would rest him. Atlanta United's next game's against Inter Miami. And in my opinion, that's the game that they can definitely afford to rest Josef Martinez, is against Inter Miami. Because Inter Miami, yeah, people were like, oh, wow, I can't believe they're in a playoff spot. And then that didn't last long. And Atlanta United, they're coming to play Inter Miami in Atlanta. And that game's on Wednesday, so it's going to be short rest. So I don't think this Philadelphia game's the game that you rest Josef Martinez. It's definitely the game against Inter Miami where you want to get Josef Martinez rested, since that's a Wednesday night game. The players, though, that are out for sure for Atlanta United are center back Alan Franco. He is out because of yellow card accumulation. And then midfielder Amar Sejdic. He has a muscle injury. He is out. Remember, they got Sejdic in a trade with Montreal around the summertime as well, when they had so many injuries to the midfield, and they got Sejdic, who's played well for Orlando United. It's not been a key player for them. He hasn't been a star player by no means, but when they need to get Sosa off, when they need to get Moreno off, when they need to get Rosetta off, yeah, Sejdic does a job to close out the game for Orlando United. So, yeah, I would say that's a key piece that they're missing for the midfield, a player that they knew that they could rely on. And then questionable, Joseph Martinez, obviously, with the knee injury. Center back, Ronald Hernandez, fitness issue. He's only played in 9 games, though, this season. And then midfielder, Franco Ibarra, he has a lower body injury. He's also questionable. So, Ronald Hernandez, but it doesn't make a difference if he's fit or not. He wasn't going to start this game. Franco Ibarra, he was not going to start this game either. That's just another option that they don't have coming off the bench. And Joseph Martinez, I think he will play. For the Philadelphia Union, though, their injury report is El Senior is still out with a hamstring injury. I mean, at this point, El Senior came back for 1 game and then his hamstring got aggravated. Yeah, at this time, I think El Senior is pretty much done. And look, this guy that we know was coming towards the tail end of his career last season, and then it was announced that, the Union are going to re-sign El Senior for 1 more year. And I remember fans were arguing about how much the Union were paying him this season, $500,000 for a guy that's a super sub, and he's barely played this season. And so, look, there's a guy who I think Jim Curtin, the coaching staff, the players, they've learned to play without El Senior, which is good because we've seen in the past, that was Jim Curtin's crutch, always going to El Senior on the bench. And so, El Senior is still out with a hamstring injury. But then Jim Curtin mentioned to us today in the press conference that Corey Burke has a high ankle sprain and he's going to miss some time. So does that mean that Davo comes onto the bench, which Jim Curtin was asked about? Yeah, Davo and Luis Bruno, why haven't we seen them a lot? And Jim Curtin said, the moment hasn't been right to bring either one of those guys on. They've been high-intense situations the last couple of weeks, and Jim and his coaching staff believe that, those just aren't the best moments to bring in brand-new players. He said they look good in training and whatnot, but, he doesn't believe that they've had any good moments in the games the last couple of weeks to bring either one of these guys in. I thought you could bring in Bruno when you're up 3-1 against Orlando City. Apparently not. Davo, when you're chasing a goal, that's why you bring in a striker to get a goal back. But apparently Jim Curtin thinks that that's way too much pressure for these 2 young guys. I disagree with that, and I'm sure a lot of you guys disagree with that too. But like I said last episode as well, Jim Curtin sees these guys every single day in practice, and I guess that they would know a lot more than us. And then the only questionable player for the Union is Ali Bedoya. He's dealing with some kind of calf injury, it said on the injury report. So we shall see if Ali Bedoya is good to go. I think he probably will be. But the expected lineup for Orlando United, in my opinion, is going to be Brad Guzan in goal. 3 in the back, 5 in the back, whatever you want to call it. George Campbell, Miles Robinson, and Antoine Welks are going to be your 3 center backs. And then the 2 wing backs are going to be Brooks Lennon and George Bello. In your midfield, I think it's going to be Santiago Sousa, Rosetta, and Moreno, your 3 midfielders. And I think Ezequiel Barco is obviously going to be up top. And I think Joseph Martinez gets to start no matter what the reporters down in Atlanta say. I think Joseph Martinez is for sure going to start this game against Philadelphia Union. You rest him on the short rest week against Inter Miami. And for the Philadelphia Union, I think it's going to be this same exact lineup minus Corey Burke that we saw last game against Orlando City, where you have Sergio Santos coming in for Corey Burke. And whenever you feel like subbing out Kasper Schmeichel or Sergio Santos, I think that's when you bring in Daniel Gazdag. Jim will probably play Daniel as a striker, even though that's not what any one of us wants to see. But yeah, I don't see how Leon Flock loses his spot. He played really well against Club America. We all know he played well against Orlando City. Yeah, he doesn't do anything offensively for us, but yeah, just the work that he does off the ball, the pressing, the passing that he does for the Union. Yeah, I just don't see how Leon Flock loses his spot, and Jim Curtin's always full of praise for Leon Flock. But my 3 keys to a victory, for a Union victory, are as follow. Number 1, attack through the middle. If you guys recall the last time these two teams played back in June, even though you really can't go off of really what happened, like I said, the first half of the season for Atlanta United, because it's just a totally different team. But going back to that game in June, the Union got 2 late goals to get a 2-2 draw. And how did the Union score both of these goals? Well, they attacked down the middle of the field. Atlanta United wasn't quick enough to shut down Miro when he had a shot from distance. Guzan spills the ball for Corey Burke to tap it in, and then Jacob Glesnes, well, everybody remembers that goal by Jacob Glesnes. He just dribbles from the defensive half into the midfield. Nobody's picking him up yet. Has a shot from 40 yards out, and there's a goal for Jacob Glesnes. And the Union walk away with a point. It looked like the Union weren't going to get anything out of this game, and that's exactly what they did. They got a point down in Atlanta. So, number 1, attack through the middle of the field. Number 2, make the most of your corners. Look, Atlanta United, they've conceded 30 goals this season, and 7 of those goals have been given up on corner kicks. Philadelphia Union, meanwhile, they've scored 6 goals from corners this season, and while they've looked shaky lately on corners, the crossing's been lately as well, and I know a lot of fans are like, okay, well, we're not having any good crosses into the box, attack down the middle of the field, and I agree with that. And do we have the players to attack down the middle of the field? I think we do. With Gazdag, I think that's why you bring in Gazdag. That's why you have Miro. These guys should be good at going through the middle of the field. Jim Curtin talks about, oh yeah, Jesus Bruno has a great left foot. He can split a defense open. Well, let's see it on the field. So I do think that we do have the players to go through the middle of the field. The homegrown players are good at splitting the middle of the field, especially Jack McGlynn with his left foot. But look, 7 goals Atlanta United have conceded off of corner kicks this season. The Union have scored 6. So I think that could really make the difference in this game if the Union have good service into the box on crosses, on corners, with Atlanta United conceding 7 goals off of corner kicks this season. And my last key for the game is control the last 15 minutes of the game. Atlanta United, they've given up 10 goals in the last 15 minutes of the game this season, while they've also scored 8 goals in the last 15 minutes of the games. The Union, meanwhile, they've scored 31 goals on the season, with 9 of them coming in the last 15 minutes of the game. That is when the Philadelphia Union are the most dominant in the last 15 minutes of the game with 9 goals. So it's really going to be a telling battle. Can the Union close out the game if they have a victory in the last 15 minutes, where you know Atlanta United is going to be pushing everything? They're going to bring everything at you. Where the Union, I believe, have only conceded 4 goals in the last 15 minutes. So, look, that's probably going to come back and haunt me, right? I said 4 goals. You guys, I stopped talking about what happened in the first 15 minutes. Now, I just mentioned something that happens in the last 15 minutes for the Union. So, yeah, watch them concede and get a draw, right? And, yeah, people are going to say it's all my fault, right? But they've scored 9 goals, and I don't see why the Union couldn't go at Atlanta United the last 15 minutes of the game. But if they can complete the first 2 keys of the game, then we really don't have to worry about the Union trying to get a late goal to get a point out of this or looking for the winner, because I think this game is very durable. I told you guys that Atlanta United are missing some key players on the bench. Not star players by any means, but when their starting 11 gets tired, they had durable players on the bench that, can do a job, that can close out a game for them to go on and try to get a goal. And they're not going to have those guys due to injuries, due to suspension. So I think the starting 11 is going to be the very best players we see that Atlanta United have available. And let's see if the Union can handle a team that's coming in here in terrific form. We want to see the Union build on their 3-1 victory they had against Orlando City. We want to see them just get a winning streak going. And I have faith in this team. I trust this team, and we'll see what happens at 3:30 this Saturday. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, follow @FreeKickPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you guys haven't checked out the website, check out thefreekickpodcast.com, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And I do want to say one last thing, though. A lot of people the last two days have been checking out a lot of older episodes. People have been checking out my last 2 episodes, which has surprised me that so many people are going back to older episodes. So maybe I'm picking up newer listeners, and people are like, oh, well, I like what you're doing currently, so I want to go see what you've said in the past. So for the people that continue to listen, to anybody that's new, I appreciate people tuning into the podcast. Like I said, I should be able to do a review episode for this game, because the game's not at 7:30 like I thought it was. It's at 3:30 on Saturday. So we shall see you guys after that Atlanta United game. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.